Here's Brody Brazil.
I'll be honest, this is a topic that was definitely not on my radar, but I'm doing some research on it. I'm understanding it better. And I definitely think it's worth passing along to you. The fact that there is a, quote, new scene at NBA games. The Athletic says fans are screaming at players about their losing bets. Yeah, the fans are placing bets. And when certain players don't come through on like prop bets, the fans are actually taking it out on players like on the court because there's such a proximity and such an ability to actually heckle the players. There's Tyrese Halliburton, who is obviously a big part of this story, and we'll get into that in just a second. I'll read to you from The Athletic, which begins like this. NBA players have always gotten an earful from fans, whether at home or on the road. It comes with the job. And I certainly understand that and agree to it to some degree. But this season, it's getting darker. The recent surge in legalized gambling in every pro league and throughout college athletics has impacted American sports in ways thought unimaginable just a few years ago. But along with the potential of good that hundreds of millions of dollars in new revenues brings to the NBA and other leagues, something new and ominous has arrived. Verbal abuse directed at players and coaches based solely on fans' wagers. Now, it's also kind of about missing the shot, making the shot, causing a turnover, committing a foul, whatever, that impacts the game. But most specifically, and so directly, these players are interpreting this as they messed up a fan's bet. And that's why they're taking this heat. And you'll hear directly from the players here in just a second. The Athletic explains fans can now bet in real time on their smartphones on all aspects of the game, including minutiae such as how many rebounds one player might get in the first half, and how many points will be scored by a team in the fourth quarter. And if their bets don't deliver, they're taking it out on the players. I'll have some takeaways at the very end of this, but I want to explain this just a little bit further here. Prop bets, like I was talking about before, they're very popular among sports fans these days. They're interesting, they're compelling. They have been the subject of two recent incidents that raised questions about whether basketball players were under the sway of gamblers. A watchdog spotted irregular betting patterns on prop bets in some Temple University men's basketball games this season. And then more recently, the NBA told ESPN last week that it was investigating Raptors forward Jontay Porter after betting irregularities were flagged on prop bets involving his performances in two games. One of which I was made aware of. It was a game against Phoenix, and I guess Porter's stats were approaching the prop bet, and so he instantly pulled himself out of the game, wasn't feeling well. There were a lot of questions about it, and I'm not here to speculate, but that is what is in question, and that is kind of the focus right now. I mean, obviously the league sees ways it can benefit through sports wagering, but they have to be concerned about the integrity of their product and also protecting players from some of this reported like verbal abuse, extra verbal abuse that they never got before, that they are getting now. PJ Tucker of the LA Clippers said this specifically about the wagering and the heckling he's getting because of it and seeing because of it. Quote, "It's getting outrageous. It's kind of getting crazy. Even in the arenas, hearing fans yelling at guys about their bets. It's unreal. It's a problem. I think it's something that's got to be addressed." That's Tucker from the Clippers. Here's Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics. Quote, "You see people on Twitter, fans going back and forth with players on Twitter about how you lost their money, how players lost the fans' money. I guess it's kind of funny. I don't know. I guess I do feel bad when I don't hit on people's parlays. I don't want them to lose money, but, I just go out there and try to play the game." I mean, do you really think that players have that much control and competition about how well they can actually do? Wouldn't they try and score as many points as possible every single time for their own future contracts and benefits? Obviously, it's not that easy, but obviously Jason Tatum has a lot of mixed feelings on that. Tyrese Halliburton, as mentioned before, of the Indiana Pacers, to half the world, he says, "I'm just helping them make money on DraftKings or whatever. I'm a prop." You know what I mean? That's what my social media mostly consists of. That is so well said, straight to the point, and understandable right there. And that's too bad. I mean, look, basketball's his career. He's getting compensated well to do it. I don't think he deserves flack for performing or not to satisfy a bet. He puts expectations on himself to perform regardless. But it's kind of sad. If he really has and harbors those feelings, what has this fan and player relationship become? And to be clear, we're talking about a small subsection of fans, but definitely enough for him to have those emotions. Cole Anthony of the Orlando Magic said, quote, "There were a few parlay bets that he observed and how crazy they were, where I was like, this is sickening. I mean, not sickening, but it's funny in a way to see this stuff and see how serious a lot of people take this." So from a different perspective, maybe not the abuse of players or the verbal insults, but just how crazy these bets have actually become. But now it does get serious. Cleveland Cavaliers coach J.B. Bickerstaff said last month that a gambler somehow accessed Bickerstaff's cell phone number and left him threatening texts and voice messages, intimating he knew where Bickerstaff and his family lived. That's not good. Quote, "It is a dangerous game and a fine line that we're walking for sure," Bickerstaff said. And to know for him that this person was after him based solely on their sports wagering and, let's be honest, probably gambling problems and addiction, this is almost like somebody with a substance abuse issue coming after you. They're not right. They need help. They're targeting you mistakenly. And I think the NBA is going to have to do a job on this to protect the players. So with that said, here are my takeaways on all this. If you're the NBA, it's more money, more problems. I know that was a Notorious B.I.G. song, but it holds true here. The more money you get yourself into with betting and wagering and companies and partnerships, the more problems you're going to have just like this. You can't influence your fans to go out and do this and then expect that some of this also wasn't going to happen. I also think the NBA has always had to take extra steps with its fans being so close to the action. I mean, you think about baseball, there's always a barrier. In hockey, there's literally the glass. You can pound on the glass as hard as you want, but fans aren't generally going over the glass. In football, the fans are so far away, plus there's sidelines of players on each side. You couldn't really get down to the field if you tried, not to mention they're all wearing protective gear. But in basketball, players are so close, they're so exposed, there's no barrier. I mean, fans literally have courtside seats. In some cases, they're sitting right next to the bench. So the NBA has to take these extra protective measures for their players because of the proximity that's always been there. And in my opinion, if we're really dealing with these problems, the NBA should make it a lesson and a message right now that there is zero tolerance for any of this stuff, for acting up. I mean, it's the same way where, like, if you got a hotel room at a Marriott and you trashed the place, not just once, but maybe twice, and they said, you know what? We will never let you have a hotel room in our Marriott chain again. That doesn't seem out of reason. You partied too hard, you broke stuff, you literally trashed a hotel room. What gives fans the idea that they get to buy a ticket and then do this in person to players? It's kind of a privilege to buy a ticket, go to a game. I understand it's costly. And it's a privilege to go, but it's also a privilege to be there to the extent that you don't get to make all the rules. This is not your house. This is not your thing. So I think the NBA should really come down hard on anybody that's doing this, make some examples out of people because of it. And the NBA had to know, like I said before, that they encourage betting and sports betting. If you're somebody out there and this is your thing, you're probably responsible. Most people are. They do it for fun. They're under control. They do it within their means, that's fine. But the NBA had to know that if they opened up this can of worms to a large degree and cast a big net, they were going to catch a bunch of different types of fish out there, and some dealing with these addiction problems. But here's the last thing I'll leave you with. If there are no dramatic and drastic remedies here, like they're not going to say, well, you know what? We're canceling all of our betting and gambling partnerships. They're not going to do that, right? So if they're only going to take small measures here, what are the mitigations going to be? To help people with gambling problems, to slow down these altercations, to make it more comfortable on their players? What are the small things the NBA can do? They're not going to handle this on a large scale basis. So what are the small things that hopefully they actually take care of? That's my question. I don't have the answer for that, but I mean, The Athletic had no problem finding these players with these issues. And by the way, I will link to the Athletic article down below. Should have said that before. They did great work in uncovering this story, getting enough people to talk about this story. So you know it's out there. We're not making this up. I don't think we're making too big of a deal of it. And I think it's only going and trending in one direction moving forward. You made it here to the end of the video. You know I really appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. That'll help me and this video and this channel. That would be great. Also, before you go down there and hit that subscribe button because I would love to definitely see you back here next time.